So, what did you guys of Doctor Who Series 8, aka Season 34? It was alright, I guess. I loved it. Well, of course you did. There are two things of going around things, my dear Toby. The Great Western Way and the LMS Way. Wait, what? That's what they had on the poster in Flatline? Oh yeah! That was ruddy annoying. Or maybe they had LMS trains running from Birmingham down to Bristol. Maybe, but Bristol is a Great Western station. I mean, come on, it's not that difficult to get right. It's like one of the top three, along with London, Paddington, and Swindon. Yeah, I mean, that is not Great Western, that poster. You're telling me. Well, I told you, rather. I'm kind of a bit annoyed now. Yeah, me too. You want to go and hunt down some LMSs, Percy? Yeah, maybe later. But first, we gotta wrap up this sketch. By doing what? Perhaps by saying, hopefully, Series 9 will be better. Yeah, it probably will be better. Oh, definitely. I don't know. But I have high hopes after all, Peter Capaldi. Silly steamies. Okay, that happened. Is it me, or is everyone else feeling a bit worried? Yeah, I'm feeling a bit worried too. I'm a Capaldi fan, and even I'm feeling a bit worried about what he said. Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my Doctor Who Series 8 ranking. This is my ranking of Doctor Who Series 8, or Season 34. By the way, if you're interested, this is the slim version of the Blu-ray that comes with the BBC Store exclusive slipcover one with the press the button TARDIS sound effect one. This is the Blu-ray release I was talking about, and there was a DVD edition as well. Do comment if you want me to review this Blu-ray special edition Blu-ray for Series 8. I put the Blu-ray back in. This is being filmed after the video is finished. There's a great schematics of the Daleks and postcards. There's a schematic of the Dalek. If I said Dalek first, I meant TARDIS, and then the Dalek on the back. So yeah, comment down below if you want me to review this, because it's a special limited edition Blu-ray release, and there was one for DVD as well. That's probably no longer available, and probably very hard to find now. So do comment below if you want to see a review of this. Anyway, back to the ranking. I expect this is a very rare to find Blu-ray DVD or Blu-ray release now, because BBC Store closed a year or two later. It's probably very rare to find that particular version. However, the 2013 specials steelbook recently got announced, so Series 8 is the last series of the new series to get a steelbook release. So if you want to get that, that should hopefully be coming sometime next year, 2021, hopefully. So yeah, be on the lookout for that if you want to get that. So, and it's of course available on standard DVD and Blu-ray as well. So Series 8. I don't think Series 8's been a very good series, in honesty. In fact, it's been a pretty weak series, so to speak. There's been some good episodes, there's been some good bits, and even some of the weaker ones have had some good moments. But it's been a bit of a disappointment overall. Is this the weakest series of the new series as of the first 8? Yes, I think so. Even with Series 7's issues, I think 7 had a little bit more spark in its stories than Series 8 did. I think Series 8 had a bit of a whimper in places. Looking at half the list, most of the second half is quite weak, in honesty. There's only one I'd actually consider god-awful, but it's one story, but as a series, it's not that great, which is a shame because this is Peter Capaldi's first series as the 12th Doctor. So he should have had a grand series to start off with, and they took him in a more darker direction for his character and for the series, for the exception of In the Forest of the Night. But in all honesty, I don't know if it worked. I don't know if it was the tone or just the story. I know it wasn't the tone. The tone was fine. We just had to iron out a few kinks in it. It's the stories. Not all of the stories were that interesting. We needed a few better stories. Which is a shame because otherwise it would have been a pretty great series. But let's not delve with what could have been for much longer. Let's delve into what we did get. So the stories of Series 8 that we got are Deep Breath, Into the Dalek, Robot of Sherwood, Listen, Time Heist, The Caretaker, Kill the Moon, Mummy on the Orient Express, Flatline, In the Forest of the Night, and Dark Water and Death in Heaven. So, that's 12 episodes, 11 stories, as the last 2 episodes were a 2-part finale. And the first 2-parter since halfway through Series 6 with the terrible Rebel Flesh Almost people. But yeah, so let's start the Series 8 Season 34 rankings. 34 seasons done, people. Wow, 34 out of 38. That is incredible. And we're on to the 12th Doctor. Awesome. Unfortunately, this series is a bit of a disappointing start. So, without further ado, the Series 8 Season 34 ranking. Starting off with number 11. Number 11 is Kill the Moon. I hated this episode. Okay, positives first. Clara. Clara's great, Jenna Coleman's great, Peter Capaldi's great. Doctor was pretty great in the first half of the episode, not so much the second half. Danny Pink also pretty good in this, and Samuel Anderson had a good scene playing the character. Besides that, and some good location filming in Lanzarote and some good visuals. But the story is terrible. Terrible story. Got some really bad science in there, which I'm not an expert on, but I know lots of people are complaining about the science, so I'm going to throw it in there. And yeah, the science does feel a bit knackered. Courtney Woods is there for no reason, and to be honest, they were trying to build her up like she was going to be a recurring character, but after this episode, she's dropped. Hermione Norris's character is one of the most boring, notable supporting characters, and I'm surprised I remember the name of the other two guys. Duke and Henry. They were nothing. They were red shirts. Their plan was terrible, to blow up the moon in order to stop global disasters. But that would probably cause more global disasters. And then the Earth, the egg, and then the moon turning out to be an egg for a alien dragon possible parasite. It was shit. It was a shit fest. What the fuck? And on top of that, it was boring. It was boring as hell. Yeah, what? This episode can't have been badly written on purpose. Must have been an accident, surely. Its saving graces are the performances of our main two leads, as well as Samuel Anderson, and of that final scene with final 2 scenes with Clara and the Doctor's argument and falling out, and then with Clara telling Danny about it. Those are the saving graces of this episode. But besides that, this is a terrible episode. This episode got mixed response on broadcast. Some people loved it, some people didn't like it. People who loved Listen weren't so keen on this one. People who didn't like Listen loved this episode. You'll find out what my opinions on Listen later on in this ranking. But as for this episode, this was shit. This was absolute shit. And at time of the first 8 series of the new series, it's the second worst episode of the new series after Series 7's Asylum of the Daleks. However, there is likely to be at least one more episode to be worse than either of those two. Next series, we'll see. But yeah, this is a new low for the show. Even if it's not as low as Asylum, it's a new low. I don't know what went wrong, and I know Peter Harness does a better job in Series 9 and 10 when he writes for those series. He writes the Zygon Invasion and the Zygon Inversion, and in Series 9, and Pyramid at the End of the World with Stephen Moffat in Series 10. He also Inversion with Stephen Moffat. But even if those two could still have, maybe Moffat did save those. Even Invasion, which was Harness on his own, apparently, was still really good, or at least better than this by a long shot. So, yeah, but this one fucking sucks. Number 10. Now, this one doesn't really suck. I know a lot of people hate this one, but it is just there. It's a bit bland. Not really much happens. In the Forest of the Night. Yeah, it's not that great. It's all right. It's got some moments. Maeve's a good supporting character. It's got some nice visuals. And it's a good one for the kids. I'll give it that. It's a good one for the kids before the more adult finale, or at least penultimate episode, anyway. But it's a bland and a bit fluffy episode. I actually enjoyed myself when watching it, but it is a bit more of a blander episode. That's why it's this low on the list. Number 9. The second worst finale of the revived series, and at the current time of Series 1 to wait, it is the worst one, but Series 9 is coming up next. But as for Series 1 to wait, it is the worst one, and the second worst one of the new series overall. Dark Water and Death in Heaven. Again, some great concepts in this episode. It is a two-part story, but it kind of ruined it. With Dark Water, the whole 3W stuff, and the fact that it's the start of the plot of Missy's plan, it knocks it down significantly. However, there was some pretty good moments throughout the rest of the episode. I am a bit concerned that the Sidemen are a bit more like robots in this story than cyborgs, because there isn't much human remains in them that we can see in the Dark Water, but maybe they do have the brains inside the skull, and Danny does keep part of his humanity, as does a Cyberman. That is the deceased former ally slash beloved character. Damn you, Moffat! But other than them, there wasn't really many human sides to the Sidemen, which is a disappointing that they're trying to be more like robots, and not intentionally, like in Timeless Children, which got the plan ripped by the Master in that story, and unlike this time where the Master, Missy, is just letting them go along with it. Death in Heaven. Oh my god, what the fuck? Missy's plan is just to give the cyber army to the Doctor as a birthday present, that's it. And the whole plan about upgrading dead bodies and downloading the souls from the Neversphere, it sucks. Danny's character arc and Clara's character arc even come to a decent close as the 12th Doctor's first series story arc. And I like Michelle Gomez as Missy, but the climax is pretty bad. Besides wrapping up Danny's story arc, it's not very good. It's a weak story. Also, Shambar Baskiv, I think that's his name, is wasted. He's a great actor, and he's wasted in this story, just doing nothing. Okay, moving on to number 8, an episode that I found better than the previous two episodes on this ranking. The previous three, I should say, 9 and 10th spots. I found this one to be a better story, but I found it to be less engaging and less interesting. But I think the story is a little bit more thought out, and it's a bit better. Into the Dalek. One of my least favourite Dalek stories, but not the worst. It's better than in Mission to the Unknown. It's better than, well, actually, maybe my opinion on that has slightly changed a bit thanks to UClan. It's better than Destiny of the Daleks. It's better than Assignment of the Daleks. It's probably going to be better than Magician's Apprentice, which is familiar. So it's bottom 5, bottom 6 Dalek stories for me. But not the very bottom, but it's one of the bottom 5, bottom 6. The idea of going into a Dalek is fantastic, but the story that they do there isn't that great. I think the Dalek story should have come later in the series, like the episode 8 or 9 or 10, as opposed to episode 2, because it has been not very long since the time of the Doctor, which the Daleks played a big part in. Day of the Doctor as well, just not long before that. So, yeah, the Daleks should have had a slightly longer break before their first episode with the 12th Doctor. If not, wait until the next series. I know it would have then been a 3-year gap since the previous proper Dalek story with Asylum of the Daleks, but and I know it's been 2 years when this episode broadcast, would have been nearly 2 years since then, that story, but I think following Time the Doctor, they should have had a bit more time before meeting the Daleks. Maybe Courtney Woods could have met the Daleks if they carried on having her as a recurring character and then the Daleks would have been in like episode 9 or episode 10. How great would it have been to have basically a series just full of new monsters and villains throughout the series, and then you've got, like with Tom Baker's first season, you could have the recurring monsters at the very end, with the Daleks and then the Cybermen and the Master. That would have been great. The only other recurring villain besides those three is the Clockwork Robots from Deep Breath, but even then, whilst they're related to the ones from Girl in the Fireplace, they're not the same. So, yeah. Maybe the same mate, but not the same ones themselves, so they might be a bit different. Into the Dalek also introduces the whole shit stuff about the soldiers, which I don't even think gets resolved properly. The Doctor doesn't have any problem with it in Mummy and Orient Express, and it's kind of shown a bit more in Death in Heaven, but even then, it's not really much of a conflict. Actually, there is a little bit of conflict there, but after that, it's not really brought up again. The whole soldier stuff is just so the Doctor and Danny Pink can have a bit of conflict later in the series. But even after the Caretaker, and besides a bit in Death in Heaven, there's not really that much. It's a bit pointless. And whilst the supporting cast are great, I'm not so keen on their characters. Nicholas Briggs is fantastic as the Daleks, though. Moving on to number 7, one of the weaker season openers for a new series, and one of the weaker opening stories for a new Doctor. Number 7 is A Deep Breath. This one was good, but I feel like maybe we could have cut it down to 65 minutes, because there was some slower stuff, and there were some bits that could have been cut, like, for starters, we know Vasta and Jenny are married from previous episodes. They don't need to remind us 50 billion times. And there's this really silly bit where it's tried to play it like a joke, because LGBT representation, fantastic, but you're playing it as a joke now, Moffat. With the bit when Vasta is looking up people's deaths on a map, and Jenny's kind of posing there, like thinking Vasta's painting a painting, and turns out she was not. That's trying to be playing the whole situation as a joke, which is I don't know if that is that offensive. I'm not sure. It definitely doesn't contribute anything to the story, the whole posing stuff, and the constant reminders. Strax's comedy is a bit better in this episode than his was before. Doctor adjusting to his body is a bit is done well enough, especially for this Doctor, and Clara starting to become a character in her own right, following a bit of a stump of character growth after Rings of Akaten. There was a bit in the Doctor trilogy, but not an awful lot. But now we're starting to see a bit more of personality for the character, that we will see carry on throughout the rest of the series. Thankfully, Clara Oswald becomes a much better character in the rest of Series 8. Only to go downhill once again afterwards. But I'll talk more about that when we get to Series 9. Right, that's half the list down, more or less. On to number 6. Number 6, the episode that lots of people loved when broadcast and lots of people didn't like when broadcast, and then those people who loved Kill the Moon and the people who did like this one wouldn't like that one. Listen. Now, this episode is, on its own, a very fillery episode. However, when in context with other episodes of this series, it does kind of tie it in. It's tying in Clara and Danny's relationship, which is building up throughout the series, and the Doctor's going to be Danny in a few episodes' time. And then it's also got the telepathic control switch ties in with Darkwater, Death in Heaven. It doesn't really have anything to do with Missy or the Nethersphere or the Promised Land or anything like that, but it does have the stuff with Clara Danny. So that's important to have a Clara Danny character growth episode. And I think that sounded well alongside the more scary stuff, the horror stuff. But it is a very fillery episode. It feels like a very episode. Even for character growth, it's not that amazing. It's a bit dull in places. We should not have revealed the alien under the bedsheet's head. That is a very obviously silver, typical alien head. We should not have seen any of that. And yeah, it's kind of just there's some places that are a bit dull and slow and not so great. And the fact that Clara kind of influences the Doctor's life by grabbing his leg at a young age. I don't know how to feel about that. I'm not thinking it's a good idea. I'm thinking it's a bad idea. The only good thing about it is that we get one more flashback cameo appearance of John Hurt, but that's it. So yes, sorry, listen, but you weren't really that amazing. You were going down the right track, so I'll give you that. You was going down the right track. It just kind of went on to a couple sidings and got stuck a little bit in places, and then lost its way at the end. Um, but overall, it wasn't terrible. It was okay, but it was better than okay. It was pretty good, but I'm not gonna outright say I'm a listen lover. Despite hating Kill the Moon, I'm not gonna say I'm a listen lover. I'm more of the on the fence person where I like Listen, but I don't love it. However, Kill the Moon fucking sucks. We okay there? I know this is an argument that's 6 years old and probably not made paid much attention to after the series final 4 episodes of the series, but yeah, hopefully you can understand where I'm coming from. Okay, number 5. Like Listen, this is a character growth story, but I think this one's handled a bit better. A bit more goes on. The Caretaker. Now, this one was a pretty good story, had some good moments, and had a few fun moments. And the Skullfoot Splitzer is a pretty good character. Um, and the character growth of the Doctor, Clara, and Danny is really good. One good thing I will say about Series 8 is that it does have some sort of a story with these three characters. It does have some sort of a story in quite a few of these episodes. I think some more of these episodes actually should have tried contributing to that as well. I mean, yeah, we got some great episodes later on that didn't really do an awful lot of that, and a couple good episodes earlier on that did, but it didn't either. Actually, out of my top 4 episodes, one of which doesn't have any at all, one of them has a small amount, and the other 2 don't have an awful lot either. So yeah, maybe the best episodes are actually the ones that don't really talk about it that much. But this one, of the ones that do, is probably the one that the one that focuses on it. It's probably the best one of those. It's got some fun moments. It's not amazing, but it's still pretty good, but not terribly good. But good. Moving on to number 4. This one was surprisingly fun and enjoyable and engaging. I honestly don't think many people would put this one this high on this ranking, but I just had such a good time with it. Number 4, Robot of Sherwood. This was actually a simplistic and yet fun story. I mean, yeah, the Doctor and Robin Hood having their kind of rivalries, and struggling to work with each other until towards the end was a bit annoying, and it kind of foreshadows the Doctor Danny relationship as well. But it's still a fun episode, really good. I think it's Tom Riley. He's very good as Robin Hood. Ben Miller, whilst the Sheriff of Nottingham is a very typical pantomime villain, Ben Miller does a fantastic job in the role. And it was a shame that that scene with where the sheriff revealed himself to be a robot was cut, but due to the unfortunate circumstances, which I talk about in the review, it was probably best that it was cut. It was the right thing to do, though I would like to see it in the future. But yeah, it was a good thing it was not included following the incident. And yeah, it's just a fun, engaging episode. Not really anything spectacular or amazing, apart from some pretty cool visuals and some great spectacle. But overall, it's a fun and enjoyable story. If you're getting a bit worn out by some stories like Into the Dalek or Kill the Moon or something, this is a good one to put on. It's a fun, enjoyable episode. Number 3, we're now coming to the really good stuff of this series. Number 3 is another fun and enjoyable story, but this one has a bit more of a stronger plot as well, which makes it even better. Number 3 is Time Heist. Steve Thompson redeems himself after the meh Curse of the Black Spot and the abysmal journey to the centre of the TARDIS. Although maybe he has some help from Stephen Moffat, but then again, maybe this was mostly his idea. But yeah, Time Heist is a fun, enjoyable adventure. Some great supporting characters and performances. Yeah, Madame Caraboxos isn't the greatest villain. Miss Delphox was a pretty good villain, but both of them were just serviceable for this story. Sai and Sabri, I remember the name for this ranking. But they were good supporting characters. I really enjoyed those. Them and Doctor and Clara dynamic worked really well. And the Teller was an interesting creature. I thought this was a fun, enjoyable episode. I also liked the idea of doing a story doing the heist genre. That was a pretty interesting move on this part on the episode's part, and I liked that. We could have a bit more of experimental with genres in the series, but I'm glad this one did, and it's worked really well. Moving on to the top two, and if you haven't figured out by now, the top two are both written by Jamie Matheson, who is probably the most popular 12th Doctor writer. Well, he's 12th Doctor era writer. He doesn't write for any other Doctor's eras. So we start off with his second written script, but the first one to be broadcast, and the much needed episode following Kill the Moon, Mummy on the Orient Express. Yeah, this was a fun episode. This was a great one. With the 66 seconds to see the mummy before it kills you, and it's just a great story over round. Capaldi was great as the Doctor, and whilst Clara didn't have an awful lot to do in this episode, she still had some moments. It would be a bit unfair saying that this is a companion night story when there is still quite a bit of the companion doing stuff, in a similar way that my number one choice doesn't have the Doctor in an awful lot of the episode, but he's still doing quite a bit, even though the story is focused on the companions. So it would be unfair to say that one was a Doctor-like story. We also have the fantastic Frank Skinner as Perkins in this episode. He's absolutely amazing. The mummy creature is an interesting idea. My only kind of niggles is that we don't really know who Gus is or why he's doing all of this. I would have liked to have known or had a follow-up to this episode, but we never got a follow-up to that episode yet. We didn't get it in the rest of Series 8. We didn't get it in Series 9 or 10, and Chris Chibnall hasn't touched upon it yet. So, yeah, maybe a future writer will in a future series, but as of now, or Matheson might even come back to write about it in a future series. But as of right now, we haven't had any update or follow up about Gus. But that's my real only major issue. That's about it. But other than that, Mummy on the Orient Express is a fantastic episode. But number one is a visually stunning episode alongside and complementing a fantastic script. Number one is Flatline. What a fantastic episode. Fantastic script. Jamie Matheson once again nails it, and this was his first script. Peter Capaldi, Jenna Coleman, fantastic performances. This is Clara's best episode as a character. She is awesome, and it's the best of the times when Clara tries to be like the Doctor. I didn't mind it too much at Darkwater when she was trying to convince the Sidemen, but then the title sequence tried to say, "Oh no, Clara really is the Doctor, honest," and then it was revealed she wasn't. So the titles were trying to trick the audience as well, whilst Clara tricking the Simon, yes. Show trying to trick the audience, no. And then Series 9, I think she's trying to be a bit too much like the Doctor. So, yeah, this is when it works the best, when she actually has to take on the Doctor role for this one time round. But just the once. But afterwards, not so great, unfortunately. So I think it works the best here. Some decent supporting characters, not amazing, but more interesting than ones we get to know more of. But yeah, simple and effective, and some great visuals, stunningly put together. Douglas McKinnon directed this episode along with Listen and Time Heist, and they all look stunning. But this one seems to have the best of the visuals and some really great camera angles and positions, and really building the tension of the story, as well as some really great shots, telling the story in a nice fashion. Really brilliantly put together, and it's masterpiece of television, just magnificent. It's not the outright best story ever made or anything, but it's certainly a very strong episode in this era, and easily the best episode of Series 9, although Mummy did come pretty close. So, that's my ranking of Doctor Who Series 8. To recap, number 11, Kill the Moon, or Kill the fucking Moon, as I called it in my review. Number 10, In the Forest of the Night. I know a lot of people would call it In the Forest of the Shite, but I'm not going to because I didn't hate it. Number 9 is Darkwater, Death in Heaven. Number 8 is Into the Dalek. Number 7 is Deep Breath. Number 6 is Listen. Number 5 is The Caretaker. Number 4 is Robots of Sherwood. Number 3, Time Heist. Number 2, Mummy on the Orient Express. And number 1, Flatline. So that's my ranking of Doctor Who Series 8, or Season 34. Thank you for watching. Wow, 34 seasons in. Out of 38, we've done quite a lot. We've only got 4 more seasons to go. And 3 of them I've already technically covered, but I'm going to recover them in new revisitations reviews. I'm calling them the revisitations in homage to the revisitations DVD box set, which include special edition DVD releases of stories that had been previously released on DVD many years earlier. So the Series 10 onward reviews are going to be known as the Revisitations. So we've got one more series before we get to the Revisitation series, and that will be Season 35, or Series 9. Possibly the worst ever new series, and one of the worst series of the show. But I will give my opinions on each story when I do the reviews, and my overall opinion of the series when we get to that series' ranking. We will be starting the Series 9 reviews with the 2014 Christmas special, Last Christmas, so that will be next. Thank you for watching this ranking, and I'll see you guys next time for Last Christmas, which should hopefully be released on Christmas Day. Yay! A special Christmas review for all of you at home. And incidentally, a very Merry Christmas in advance for all of you at home. Right, I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the Nicholas Payne YouTube channel. Sorry. This is my ranking of Doctor Who, the series. But let's not dive in what. Hang on. Oh dear. And the second worst one of the new series so far. That was a upgraded version of a deceased former character. That was the former. But the climax, apart from wrapping up Danny's story on a apart from wrapping up Danny's story arc, it kind of ruins the story a little bit. Moving on to number 7, one of the weaker first season but that's something to do with Series 9. But that's when we get... But I know this is a argument that's a 6-year-old argument, but still. Actually, number 5. A little bit more, but actually the best 4 episodes, 2 of which, one of which, but not terribly. Okay, moving on to and there's some pretty good stuff in the story, like the robot. Yeah, Cara Blacksauce is a bit of a bog standard. Yeah, and it was also a great. And I also liked the idea of doing a heist story, heist episode. I also enjoy, but I thought this was a pretty good one. That did, but I think this one did it. Moving on to the top 2, and if you know by now, so yeah, we start off with his second script, but the first one to be written, and again, like saying this, it would be saying, listen, not in Series 9, we didn't get it at the end, but number 1 is a stunningly spectacular, visually, and the best time the Clara being like the Doctor thing worked. I think it works the best, but it's certainly a strong adventure in this era. It's certainly a strong adventure in this era. But it's certainly a strong... So, that's my Doctor Who Series 8 ranking. Thank you for watching. Next time will be... Thank you for watching, and I'll see you... Which had special editions of stories that had previously been released on standard